Welcome back to the road to City Hall. The de Blasio administration is slowly taking shape, and a picture is emerging of a mayor-elect willing to pull some political strings to get his choice-elected city council speaker. Melissa Mark Viverito of East Harlem in the Bronx says she has the votes to become speaker after de Blasio leaned on incoming council members and the Brooklyn Democratic chairman. Here to give us their takes on our four top political consultants. We start with the Republicans, Jessica Proud and Jake Menges, and Democrats, Basil Smikle and Alexis Grinnell. Thanks, guys, for being here. I appreciate it. Jessica, why don't we start with you? Does it detract from Bill de Blasio's luster, if you will, that he campaigned criticizing Christine Quinn for her closeness with Mayor Bloomberg and said that he was going to be running a transparent administration, and then word in the middle of last week that he had some private phone calls telling people that they should vote for Melissa Mark Viverito and telling the Brooklyn Democratic chairman, Frank Seddio, that he should support her?
I don't think it matters so much to the public because it's sort of an inside baseball thing, the speaker's race, which actually for the first time sort of had this unprecedented public attention and how this whole thing rolled out. I think she was smart in locking up the votes that she had and making that public and sort of putting people's feet to the fire on it. But look, they doubled down on what type of direction they want to take in the city. I think it's going to be good for Republicans going forward and moderates you're going to see a very strong leftward-headed administration, and she's going to be there supporting him every step of the way.
And what about governing, Basil? Do you think that people on the city council, obviously a number of them really support Bill de Blasio and support his platform, but they also presumably want to feel like they're an independent voice?
Right, they want to feel that way. But he came in and said that he had a mandate, and in doing so, he, as you prefaced with the segment, he made these phone calls. I don't want to say he twisted arms necessarily, but he did apply some pressure to the county leaders to try to make this happen. So I think in him doing so, the belief is that with this mandate that he actually now can have a very significant role in governance and in policy through the city council. As you said, if it's a very left-leaning council, and for all indications it is going to be that, a fairly progressive city council, that means that for what he campaigned on, should he decide to follow through on everything that he talked about, he will have very few roadblocks to do so. And do you want some kind of balance? I think you do. But for him, if he feels that he came in with that mandate, he has that mandate, and that's how he's going to govern.
I should add that this isn't over. The vote doesn't happen until after the first of the year. And Dan Garodnick from the East Side says that it's not over. He's still campaigning. He still has some support. Is it good for him politically to keep going, or should he fold his cards? Is there any downside to it?
No, because this game isn't over, quite obviously. Melissa Mark Viverito has declared victory, I think, a full 2 weeks before a vote, and that was a sort of gutsy move to try to nab the momentum story, but at the same time it could backfire, and she could very well end up with members deviating to get a better deal. There's plenty of time to make some deals, and just to the earlier point about transparency, I think Jessica made a good point. This is not a transparent process, choosing the speaker, and not since we called the speaker the council president was the public electing the speaker. It's been the most transparent it's ever been with all these public hearings. So by definition, this is an inside game.
24 hours in politics is a very long time. Right. She's got 16, 17 days that she's got to hold together a very fragile coalition. And there are some very savvy political operatives out there in the different Democratic organizations that are not happy at the way this went down and that they weren't at the table and in this process. And the way that most of these city council members have operated over the years, they might be on a piece of paper now backing her, but tomorrow they could be with somebody else. So
I would say
this is not over yet.
If you're a city council member whose name's on that paper, I'd be really upset, because essentially you're outing me and politically, and how does that bode for the future in dealing with this particular speaker? Is this going to be the kind of relationship you're going to have with the speaker, where essentially your arms are going to be twisted not just by her but by the mayor as well, all in a way that's very public and less behind the scenes?
Well, let's get your grades on how Melissa Mark Viverito handled all of this. Jessica, you're up first.
I did give her a B because I think, she had the support lined up. I presume that she did it with their participation and that they agreed to it. I don't know that for sure, but she put out these quotes, these people supporting her. So it's, you know, it's smart to sort of lock them in. It makes it more difficult when it's a private thing to turn around and say, like, well, you know, I cut a deal, and they have to answer to why they changed their support at that point. But I do think it was a very risky move to go out so early like that.
Interesting. Alexis?
Like I said, tactically, it's a gamble. She could completely win the day by outing all these people and making it harder for them to cut a deal and deviate from her little coalition. And if it backfires, it's really bad for her. They have plenty of time to deviate, and it's really bad for the mayor if that happens too, because he's also been outed with a preference, and if he loses the Speaker Council fight, he stands to look weak. It might have been better for him to just stay out of it, but he's already way out there.
Interesting. Jake?
Yeah, I gave her a C for chutzpah. I think she came out very early.
CH.
CH. I think she came out very early, and as I said earlier, these council members could flip very easily. Nothing is set in stone. And yeah, we talked about how it could backfire on her, but the real person who's got a lot of stake in the game here is the mayor-elect. And if he goes down to, loses his 7th day in office, it's a real black eye in the beginning.
Interesting. Okay. Basil?
I gave it a C for all the reasons that were mentioned. I would also just add that, he campaigned on this. He campaigned on the relationship between Bloomberg and Christine Quinn and how that was not a good idea. And I said on the show a couple of weeks ago that I thought he was going to have a very strong role in this. I didn't think his fingerprints were going to be so profound. And that's the only reason I gave it a C, because it's something that is an inside baseball kind of thing, but it seems to have gone very, very public. I don't like the idea of her coming out and sort of talking about victory parties. It's a bit indelicate at this stage, but I do think for the mayor, if this is what he wants, and he says, I said before, that he feels he has a mandate, then I think from a governance standpoint, he's going to get what he wants through the council.
It's not just the mayor pulling the strings. It's who else? Give us a little intel.
County bosses, of course, have a lot of sway in this process.
But 1199, I have heard.
Unions, too, obviously have a lot to do with this. But traditionally, Queens and Brooklyn have held a lot of sway, although Brooklyn is largely in disarray, and Queens County is still holding fast behind Garodnick. So
And lobbyists.
And very publicly, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They all have a vested interest in who the chairs are of some of these very key committees.
It's interesting. I mean, having this split on the city council even before the new city council speaker is elected. We're going to take a quick break. More of the consultants in just a moment, and then a preview of tomorrow night's program. Don't go away.